It is 4 o'clock. Please stand to sing our national anthem. Please be seated. We'll start with the roll call.
Mayor Sue Patterson,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Warren Dickert,
Present.
Councillor Harold Fleet,
Present.
Councillor Dave Hawking,
Present.
Councillor Carol Hudson,
Present.
Councillor Brandon Cable,
Present.
Councillor Susan Sackle.
Present.
Thank you. All members are accounted for. I'll begin with the land acknowledgement. As we work toward reconciliation with Indigenous people, we begin our meeting today by respectfully acknowledging that we are situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. And further, give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. So welcome to our regular council meeting for Monday, November 3rd, 2025. Good afternoon, council, staff, guests, the viewing public, and the media. Council, does anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest or a conflict of interest? Seeing none, as always, you may declare one during the meeting if it does arise. Item 6, we do not have any agenda additions or deletions, so we'll move right into our health and safety message. The message demonstrates the town's commitment to safety, to staff, and our residents. It is intended to raise awareness of potential risks, promote safe practices, and help prevent injuries, illnesses, and fatalities. So this afternoon's health and safety message is fatigue awareness, and it's my turn. Fatigue can be described as an overall feeling of tiredness or lack of energy. Fatigue will affect your alertness, performance, health, mood, and your safety. Signs of fatigue are feeling tired even after sleep, difficulty concentrating, impaired memory, reduced alertness and coordination, slow reflexes, blurred vision, reduced stress tolerance, poor communication, impaired judgment. 5 steps to help fight fatigue. Get plenty of sleep. 7 hours of quality sleep each night is recommended. Stay hydrated. Start your day with water and continue to rehydrate throughout the day. Eat regular, healthy meals. Take frequent breaks. Take 1 minute every 20 minutes to stretch, breathe, and have some water. Exercise and get plenty of fresh air. Item 7, we do not have any delegations, so we'll move on to item 8, which is our council minutes. And we have one this afternoon. I need a mover and seconder to highlight those. Councillor Fleet and Councillor Hudson. And I just have a couple of highlights. We did have a delegation. We extended congratulations to the Hanover Lawn Bowling team, Katrina Carter, Patricia Kaufman, Sandy Weatherall, and Jill Calvert-Getz, who won the 2025 Fours Provincial Lawn Bowling Championship. We had a good discussion about blue box recycling options for non-eligible sources. And eventually, after that good discussion, we arrived at option C, which is discontinue curbside and depot recycling for institutional, commercial, and industrial, otherwise known as IC and I, if you hear that. And we received and approved reports for declaration of land surplus, revised our budget timeline, and we looked at the community hub concept proposal for the former Launchpad site. And if there's any questions or comments, I'll take those. Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Item 9, we do not have any business arising from minutes. Item 10 is our consent agenda. Are there any items in the consent agenda that you wish to be discussed separately? Okay, I need a mover and seconder to accept the consent agenda. Councillor Hawking and Deputy Mayor Dickert. The recommended motion is that the items listed on the consent agenda be received for information and that any recommendations contained therein be hereby approved. All in favor? That is carried. Item 11 is staff reports requiring action. Item 11.1 is report PB 2025. The subject is the easement agreement for 267th Street. This is the cul-de-sac north of the Hanover Lawn Bowling Club. It is from Andrew Wilkin, our Director of Development and Infrastructure, also our CBO, and I need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor. Councillor Sackle and Deputy Mayor Dickert. Andrew?
Thank you, Your Worship. Maybe preface this report. This is a bit of an error on my end why this report's before you. We discussed at the time of the zoning bylaw amendment in 2024 about some existing storm and sanitary services in the rear yard of these properties. These are existing services that the town had been maintaining in the past. At the time of the zoning bylaw amendment, it was agreed that the developer would provide these easements to the town to clean up an existing condition. In hindsight, the wording in the zoning bylaw amendment should have specifically worded that the town would be obtaining the easements, and this report before council tonight wouldn't be necessary. With that said, the report is before you today to provide that legality, so to speak. The property at hand is at 267th Ave, 267th Street. You may recall this property went through a zoning amendment and some consent application. 5 consent applications to allow for a 6-unit townhouse. The development is nearly complete with the necessary surveys and registered plan being completed, and it is in the package here tonight. As mentioned, the town of Hanover has some existing infrastructure services underground on this property, which we have been maintaining. This just provides us that legal right in the package before you tonight with the registered plan that has been completed. It shows parts 2, 5, 8, 11, 14, 20, and 21. These are for the storm and sanitary services on the side and rear yard. The owner has agreed as a part of the development agreement that they will cover all legal and surveying costs that are a part of this before you tonight. Therefore, there are no financial implications with this report. The link to the strategic plan is safe and reliable infrastructure and balanced growth. And the recommendation is that report PB 20-25 easement agreement for 267th Street property be received, and that council pass bylaw 3356-25 to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into an easement agreement for 267th Street. And before, in closing, Your Worship, the bylaw that's before you has a error in it, and I just wanted to make note that we would be looking to amend that. In the actual bylaw, it says that the easement agreement is for water and sanitary sewer. The easement agreement is actually for storm and sanitary sewer. So we have to change that word from water to storm. And with that, I'll answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Andrew. Are there any questions or comments? As he mentioned, it is a housekeeping to keep everything legal. Seeing no hands, none online, I will call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Item 11.2, this is report DCS 1825. The subject is the 2026 water and sewer rates proposal. It is from Chris Walker, our Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer, and Yelena Savic, Director of Corporate Services. I need a mover and seconder to put it on the floor. Councillor Fleet and Deputy Mayor Dickert. Who's going first, Chris or Yelena?
I will go first.
Thank you.
Council may remember back in June when we had the asset management plan, it was presented to you and it was indicated that a minimum of 5.7% overall revenues for both water and wastewater were required annually for the next 10 years. So that's from 2026 to 2035 in order to fund the recommended life cycle management using the town's own available funding and eliminate any rate-based infrastructure funding gap, as well as there was about 2.54% on the operations that they had included in their recommendations. Further to that report, Cobite Engineering did that water financial report, and it was that operations should go up a minimum 3%. So that has been all taken into account. As we've noted in previous reports, we're hoping that it was always the assumption that mostly the monthly flat rates would cover our capital reserve funds and any long-term debt costs, and consumption would hopefully cover most of the operational expenses. Again, that's never really reached that amount totally, but we're getting closer and closer each year. Back in 2024, Council may remember you made the difficult decision to start to ensure that the rates and fees required for both the water and wastewater were increased to be closer to what was required. At that time, we were charging around $15. And we were told at that time that we needed a minimum of $22. Council made the decision to go halfway through and jump to $18.50 at that time, and then asked for another 0.5% on that to go up every year. And we went up to 20, 25, even though we're still needed 22 back in 2023. So you have been making a lot of progress towards that direction. And we're getting closer to the real cost of the services. So during our AMP and growth requirements, we have a list of water and wastewater projects, total estimated costs, and this is based on our 5-year capital forecast that we are aware of right now. You're talking about $76,523,000 worth of upgrades and stuff that is required just for water and wastewater. And these figures do not include any road reconstruction. So when we do a section of a road, you're always doing water and sewer underneath. So you're looking at between $100,000 to $300,000 every time we're doing a road for either water or wastewater. So in order to comply with the requirements of the AMP that was approved by council to increase the revenues annually for the next 10 years, we've provided a couple options. We've given you option 1 where you're just slightly increasing it. I'm not going to go through all the details. You've probably had as much time to read all of these and have some detailed information on these. Option 1 was just to do a slight increase from 2025 to 2150, plus everything still at 135%. All of the options are showing water consumption rate increasing to $1.30 a cubic meter, regardless of which option you're looking at, because the consumption, again, mostly is covering operations, and the operations continue to go up and up just because we have no control over utilities, chemicals that go up on a yearly and biannual basis. Option 2 is to increase from 2025 to $22, again, the 135 and the 135% for sewer with $1.30 per cubic meter. Option 3 is no changes. And then option 4 is the actual asset management plan requirement that we had approved in June 2025. And that will take us to the $22.30 a month, again, 135%, still at $1.30 a cubic meters. And you will remember that I provided you a documentation there that gave you a list of the 2026 water sewer proposed revenues. And it shows you the additional revenues there for options 1, 2, the 3 with no changes, which I'm not providing to you, so there's no sense showing you all that detail. And then the AMP requirement. And the AMP requirement is the one that gives us the 5.7%, which we all had agreed to back in June as well. So under each option, we had provided you information regarding the discussion in the financial information. And it was provided in the past that monies will be required soon for our major capital upgrades. I think it's 2028 and 2029 when the major upgrades for the wastewater treatment plant are planned, and they're like $29 million per term, assuming that we get grant money. You're not going to be going forward with a lot of these unless you get some grant funding towards that. So that's a huge undertaking. But the more that you can put aside for the future, as we've done in the past for water, isn't it ideal to be able to put up a water tower and not increase water fees and stuff just because that water tower was going up? An $8.7 million project that we're able to fund through our grants, as well as our previous reserve funds that we have put monies aside over the years. Now, we have received some information throughout the day from council requesting, they like that chart that we had provided in the past showing how much for consumption and how much for flat rates we would be able to provide. So we had provided some information to you based on that assumption that we're going with the AMP requirement. So the amount that we would get from water is about just under $2.8 million. Our actual budget in 2026, because of the large increase for the water tower and some deep well, and we're using some reserve funds for that as well, has put us up to the $5 million mark, keeping in mind that a lot of that money is from our existing reserve funds, and then a portion of that is what's required on a yearly basis from our flat rates. So even the consumption that we're asking for the increase of $1.30 is still insufficient to cover the actual consumption for operations. The operations, if we looked at what we actually spent in 2024, added 3% in 25, added another 3% in 2026, we should be at 1.8 million. Kudos to the water department. They've found some efficiencies and have reduced it down about 105,000 so that it's less than that 3% that's required on each year operation wise. Still, it's short about $73,000 for operations. The upside, the sewer operations, again, they've kept it down lower. And you actually have a little bit more money, but we have a reduction in the capital and reserve funds that's required for wastewater, because as you know, wastewater is a huge amount that is required. So it's again, a switch and bait. You take the money that you get from the flat rates and you put it towards the operations if required. If we didn't have that money available, you'd be grabbing from your reserve funds and wouldn't keep putting it in and replenishing it. So we're trying to follow the asset management plan that was approved by council in June to keep this 5.7% over the next 10 years. So unless you have any other questions, I'm going to, our recommendation is that we go with the asset management, this report, DC 1825, 26 water and sewer rate be received. The council approved administration's recommendations for the 2026 water and wastewater rates as follows. The minimum flat water rate increased from $20.25 to $22.30. The flat wastewater rate increased to 135% of the water rate, which would go from $27.34 to $30.11 a month, effective January 1st, with the first bill in March 2026. The water consumption rate increased from $1.27 to $1.30 a cubic meter. And the wastewater consumption rate increased from $1.71 to $1.76 cubic meter. Again, that's 135% of the $1.30 water rate consumption. And the link to the strategic plan is safe and reliable infrastructure, healthy and welcoming communities, balanced growth, and open and responsible government. Now, I'm not sure if you wanted me to provide some information, because there was also another question from council if we left the rates for flats the same and we increased consumption to $1.50 or so, there wouldn't be much of a difference. What you would see is there'd be more for operations. So you would actually have about $128,000 more than what we require for operations, but you would have much less for the capital and reserves. Again, the total is still the same at the end of the day, but the amount that you get from consumption is higher, less from the flat rates. Having flat rates, you're guaranteed money that comes in, whereas consumption, it's all based on whether people consume it or not. We looked at the difference between the 3-year survey from 2020 to 2022 and then 21 to 23 that we were aware of. And there was a 0.5% increase on the consumption only. So people are being very conscious of their consumption. But in order to make things work in the water and wastewater department, you have to have guaranteed money coming in. So hopefully I've answered some questions there.
Thank you, Chris. Open for comments, questions. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Chris, for the great details. Yeah, we did spend a lot of time back in June talking about the asset management plan, and as much as we struggled with the rates we needed, I think the decision was kind of made at that time. That's what we were up against. So I support the staff recommendation, and I would leave it at that. So,
Councillor Hudson, then Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. Chris, you had mentioned 128,000 for extra for consumption and not much extra for flat rate. So do we have any numbers for that at all? Or are we just guessing on the flat rate being?
The flat rate, we'd bring in about 1.151, and if we left it as is, like the flat rates aren't a lot. They don't bring in a lot of money. You're talking about $6,000 more a year, just bringing that difference of, what are we talking here? $2.05 is only bringing in $5,000 or $6,000 more. It's consumption that brings in a fair bit for operations, but you're also overestimating on the operations how much you need, because we want it to keep consumption more for operations and the flat rates for the capital reserves. Keep in mind, capital reserves are huge coming up, where operations, you can make cuts here and there if necessary. And if you're short $5,000, it's easier to grab from a reserve than not having any reserve fund available.
But your consumption rates did not cover operations previously. So if we put the consumption rates up, that should cover operations so that we're not having to dip into the capital monies.
Again, the operations, if we did the 3% that was supposed to be, it would still not cover it, because we need over 1.85 million. And it would only bring in 1.823 at $1.50. But because they're making cuts within that, and some years you have, chlorine and alum or something that they require, and every other year you get that. So one year it goes up and then it goes down, it goes back up and down on the chemicals. But the basic utilities, gas, et cetera, continues more of a 2 or 3% increase. So yes, you can get more with consumption to cover operations, but you'll cut off your nose to spite your face. So you get more in this pocket, but not as much in this pocket, where we're trying to balance it out to be more in line with what is necessarily required. We could probably put it at $1.40, but we didn't want to jump the consumption up too high, because we needed that guaranteed money of the flat rates more so than consumption.
Just thinking of some of the homeowners that perhaps are struggling a little bit as is now, and if there's anything that they can in fact do to tighten their belt themselves without, if they have one less something with flat rates staying the same. That's my concern.
I hear you, I understand that, but from our perspective as municipalities, we need to have guaranteed money coming in. We can't just assume that we're going to get all this, that somebody's just going to miraculously have a lot of consumption, when we've seen the trend go very slow on consumption, right? But the cost of capital reserves and future replacement is going up much higher than that 0.5%.
Okay. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Chris and Yelena, for the report. Certainly, I'm in favor of option 4, sticking with the asset management plan requirements. I just think that this council has worked so hard to right the ship in terms of our rates and fees for water and sewer, to make sure that things were aligning with the actual costs. And I just think it's essential that we get our water rates to a point where the consumption does cover operations, so that we're not dipping into the fees collected for flat in order to cover capital. So I am in favor of option 4. I would even be in favor of looking at increasing the consumption rate to cover that extra $70,000 that was missing, but I'm fine with option 4.
And, oh, Councillor Fleet?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the report, Chris and Yelena. Just I just wonder, I look at water and all these major projects like the 14th Street, 1.8 million. I look at wastewater, 7 million upgrading. And I just wonder if there's a way that we can reach out to our residents, our taxpayers, in their water bills and let them see the expenses we have going forward, because all I hear is, oh, our water rates went up, our water rates, and people don't understand the projects that we have going forward. And I think if we don't keep up, we'll fall behind. And I can support the staff's recommendation, but I think that we really need to reach out to our residents and let them see how this money's being spent.
Just one second. Councillor Cable, your hand is still on the screen. Do you have something further? Okay, Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Christina, for the report. I too support option 4 as agreed by the asset management plan for June 2025. It is responsible to make sure that our resources are in place so that you're not faced with a calamity down the road for funding these services. So I support option 4, and I'm sure people will understand the need for this when they look at on November 13th or 14th, when they see the cap going on the top of our water tower. And because previous councils were astute enough to charge water rates, this construction is not a detriment on our local taxpayers. So I support the staff in their efforts, and again, option 4 is my choice. Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Chris, go ahead.
Sorry, Council, I forgot to mention that we did give you a listing there of a prediction of our rates in comparison to other municipalities in the area. And their rates are as of 2025, and the rates that we're comparing are our new 2026. And you will notice that the large portion of that, the town is still well below a lot of the other surrounding municipalities with their rates and fees.
Thank you for that, Chris. All right, I don't see any other hands raised online or in the chamber room. I'll call the question. All in favor of DCS 1825, and this is option 4. Opposed? And Councillor Cable, if you're in favor, can you raise your hand?
I'm in favor of option 4.
Thank you. That is carried. Item 11.3 is DCS 1925. The subject is the 2026 user fees and charges. It's from Chris Walker, our Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer, and Yelena Savic, Director of Corporate Services. I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Sacco and Councillor Fleet. Chris or Yelena? Yelena, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So report DCS 1925 lists the changes to the user fees and rates for the town of Hanover that are proposed for 2026. Each department schedule is summarized in the report, and changes in fees are implemented to reflect increase in operating costs, in which case they've increased by about 3%, or to better reflect costs charged by those for the services by surrounding municipalities. There are 3 new fees in the schedule. The first is facilities and services rentals have added a custodial fee of $25 an hour. This applies to any facility rental involving extensive cleanup or setup beyond typical requirements. And there are two planning and development fees that are new in this schedule. They are a road occupancy permit fee and a municipal consent permit. Aquatics admissions and swim memberships have increased by 5%. The public swim rate remains $3 per person. Water and sewer fees, as we just discussed, have increased by about 5.7%, reflecting the asset management, the infrastructure gap highlighted in the asset management plan. And we've eliminated the mandatory 2-night minimum for the medical locums for all bookings except Fridays and Saturdays. So those are the main changes in the schedule. The fire department room rental fees were submitted as remaining the same as prior year. This is an error that I want to address. Those fees should be increased to match the civic center room rental fees. So they go up by 3%. The training room goes up from $74.90 to $77.15. The daily rate is 4.5 times that. The mezzanine hourly rate increases 3% from $105.30 to $108.46, and the daily rate is 4.5 times that as well. So staff are asking that report DCS 1925 be received for information, that council approve the proposed 26 user fees and charges as amended, and that council pass bylaw 335725 as amended, establishing the rates, fees, and charges for 2026.
Thank you. Open for questions, comments. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Yelena. Just could you clarify for me, please, the medical clinic locum apartment, the change? I'm not quite getting that. What is that about? The first one was 196, and is it because of the nights that's changed?
Yes.
Okay.
There used to be a minimum 3 nights they had to pay for it. And most of them were only staying 1 night. So to accommodate that, we could get people in there to clean the areas every night except Fridays and Saturday nights. So it was, if you're going to book on Friday, you have to book at least 2 nights Friday. If you book Saturday, you have to do the same. But if you book Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, etc., 1 day is fine. So it was easier for the locums because they weren't always in for a whole month or 3 days.
I wasn't aware of what used to be a 3. Thank you.
Our CAO, Sherry, you have a comment?
I do, Mayor Sue. Can you just confirm you can hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So just further to that, that was a comment that both Deputy Mayor Dickert and I heard at our joint physician recruitment meetings recently, that the 3-night minimum was seen as a barrier to some of the physicians that maybe were only coming for 1 shift coverage. And of course, we know that that's key to in keeping our emergency room open. So that was another reason for prompting that change. And as Chris said, through the week, we can deal with the 1-night minimum, but through the week or over the weekends, we do have to have that 2-night minimum.
Thank you. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. On page 85 of the package, it's Schedule C. I'm just wondering if we can clarify the shinny, figure skating, walk-in per hour per person rate. I'm just wanting to clarify whether that's actually per person. It says it's $40.90 per hour per person.
Okay, just give us a minute, Councillor Cable, till we're all on the same page, which is page 85.
I can look into that. This was from the Director of Parks and Recreation and Culture, so I will confirm that that is per person.
Okay, Sherry, you have a comment?
Thank you, Sue, or Mayor Sue. So I can comment that that it is per person. That's my understanding. I would say it's a rate that's very rarely used as such. From my past experience at Parks and Recreation, they tend to use more the last minute booking as well for ice rates, which you will see there's a last minute reduction when it's less than, sorry, I just have to get there, 7 days or less. Or 72 hours and less as well. So that is a per person rate meant to be an occasional use as such.
Thank you. Counselor Cable, anything further?
So just to clarify, so that person would get the entire ice service for $40.90. Like, I guess I assume that a drop-in shitty rate would be like $5 or $7, something like that. Am I misinterpreting what this rate is for?
Sherry, can you comment?
We have to double check, again, as Yelena said, we'd need to double check with Laura, but that would be, yes, they would receive that per hour per person. If I can use figure skating as an example, because this is probably when it would be used mostly. Sometimes when they are, the candidate or the participants are preparing for their tests, so whether that's a dance test or a skills test, then they need to practice with their coach accordingly, and would need the whole ice surface as such. I would say for shinny, in my experience, most of them are using the last minute booking. That's 7 days or less, or I believe there's a 72 hours or less, which is just a little bit higher in the list. A lot of our shinnies for PA days would use that booking rate.
Counselor
thank you.
Cable?
Also
Okay.
at the bottom of that page, the very last item on the bottom of the page talks about the classroom, volunteer rec group meetings. And then on the next page, the classroom is not available because we've done a long-term lease. So just wondering if that needs to be adjusted to be some other room that is no charge for these group meetings, or whether we're just removing that item off the list.
Sherry, can you answer that?
I can, but I think we probably should double check with Laura. My understanding was that Parks and Recreation was either going to consider the lounge or the boardroom. I think the lounge, but I need to double check that with Laura. I can send her a quick text message and see if she'll get back to me accordingly. But I believe that they had selected another room that was provided to our volunteer organizations at no charge for their executive meetings. I'll just have to confirm which one.
Thank you. Counselor Cable, anything further?
Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay.
The
good.
only other thing that I have to note, just because we have the bylaw further in the package, I just want to make sure that it's clear. I'm on page 88 of the package. I did message Laura this morning, but for Aquafit 20 visit, the calculation is actually based off of admission times 18, not 17. So if we can make sure that's updated in the bylaw. And also in the bylaw, it includes the same writing that is in our text on page 88 around the calculations. And the admission rates will all need to be updated to the 2026 admission rates in order for the calculations to work correctly. So for example, where it says preschool dash 6 months, that should say admission $4.75 times 30 weeks, etc. So just want to make sure that that's updated when it goes into the bylaw.
Okay, and you said you contacted Laura?
I did note the Aquafit to Laura, yes.
Okay. And Chris and Yelena, you can update that. Okay. Other comments or questions? Oh, Counselor Cable, anything further before we?
No.
No, good, thank you.
No, thank you.
Anything further in this room? All right. All in favor of DCS 1925 as amended with the changes? That is carried. Thank you. All right, 11.4 is report CL 08-2025. And the subject is the appointment to the Hanover Public Library Board, and it's from Vicki McDonald, our Manager of Legislative Services and Clerk. I need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor. Councillor Hudson and Councillor Fleet. Vicki?
Thank you, Your Worship. In accordance with the procedure bylaw, appointments of members to municipal boards and committees are to be made at the required time by resolution of council or by a mayoral directive except where specifically required by bylaw. As a result of a resignation from the Public Library Board, applications were sought to fill the vacancy on the board. Mayor Patterson had reviewed the 5 applications which were received and is recommending the appointment of Lindsay Wilkin to the Hanover Public Library Board for the remainder of the term of council. There are no financial implications with this report. The link to the strategic plan is open and responsible government. And the recommendation is that report CLO 825, appointment to Hanover Public Library Board, be received, and that council approve the appointment of Lindsay Wilkin to the Hanover Public Library Board for the remainder of the 2022 to 2026 council term.
Thank you, Vicky. Comments? Questions? I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Item 12 is committees of council minutes, and we have one set of minutes. 12.1 is the Hanover Walkerton Waste Management Committee minutes. I need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor. Councillor Sackle and Councillor Cable. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. The meeting was quite short, actually. We had our primary focus for that meeting was the 2026 budget, and there were some questions that came up that we needed to get some further information on. So that meeting has been scheduled now for November 14th, at which time we'll have those additional details and be able to move ahead. We did also touch on the upcoming household hazardous waste event, and I can report that 165 people attended that, which was up from 130, I believe, last year. So certainly a well-utilized event that we hold every year, and it's good to see people taking advantage of that to keep those hazardous materials out of our landfill sites. So that is my report.
Thank you, and I can comment, it was very efficient and smooth. I finally made it there, and I was in and out in minutes, so it was perfect. Well done to staff and the volunteers. So, any other comments, questions? All in favor of those sets of minutes? That set of minutes. That's carried. Item 13, we have 2 bylaws. So we have I need a mover and seconder before I ask the clerk for the intent of the bylaws. Councillor Sackle and Councillor Fleet. Vicky, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw 3356-25 is a bylaw to enter into an easement agreement, and that bylaw will be adopted as amended. And bylaw 3357-25 is a bylaw to establish the rates, fees, and charges for various services provided by the municipality for 2026, and that bylaw will be adopted as amended as well.
All right, it's been moved by Councillor Sackle, seconded by Councillor Fleet, that bylaw numbers 3356-25 as amended and 3357-25 as amended be introduced, and that they be taken as read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and inserted in the bylaw book. Is there any further discussion with those bylaws? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. All right, correspondence requiring action. We do not have any. Are there any notices of motion? Seeing none, we're on to good news and celebrations. And I'll give Deputy Mayor Dickert the opportunity to start if he has anything to share.
Just like to encourage everyone to participate in the upcoming Remembrance Day programs that will be in town next Tuesday. There's also the breakfast at the Legion, and I'll just encourage residents to take part in those services.
Opening the floor, Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want it's a great celebration, the good news. The Hanover West Gray Mutual Prosperity Boundary Adjustment, just thank you to everyone that was involved with this, the town of Hanover, the municipality of West Gray. this is really forward thinking and growth for both communities and for going forward that in the next 25 to 30 years. So I think I just want to say thank you, and it's something to celebrate.
Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to thank staff and the county staff for the invitation to the Leadership Forum that was held last Thursday. It was very informative, and it was very pleasing to see that the recent agreement between West Grey and the town of Hanover was highlighted. I also like to inform the community that Hanover is going to host the Western Ontario Drama League Festival in 2026. I've attended a couple of meetings, and it looks like a great event. Hanover community players, some of them involved with that, have sort of started the process. So there's a group of volunteers meeting on a regular basis to plan. And just for your information, that is a 3 different casts perform their play, and judges will be there to award different awards. So again, the Western Ontario Drama League Festival in 2026, and I apologize for not having the exact dates, but I believe it's in April or May of next year. Thank you.
I'll turn to this side. Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship. Cold weather and high winds did not deter our Halloween plans on October the 31st. Town Council passed out bags of treats for our annual trick-or-treat trail, and 900 treat bags were distributed in just 60 minutes. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of the 74 businesses who participated in this event. I realize that this is an expense to your business, but at the same time, it must be so rewarding to see all of the families who come out together to enjoy the camaraderie on the streets. I also learned that for some of our newcomer families, this was the very first time their children had ever donned a Halloween costume. What fun that must have been for them. I look forward to seeing the town do this event again next year. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to thank the Saugeen Valley Children's Safety Village that hosted their Halloween celebrations on the Saturday before Halloween, and it was great to see a lot of families come out to the village. Myself and Councillor Hudson were out there handing out some candy, and certainly it was interesting talking to people and where they come from. So the village attracted people from not only Hanover, but certainly into West Grey, over into Brockton, and then people coming from Sarnia and lots of different places to come out and experience what they have to offer. And I think it's also just a great opportunity to showcase that amazing program, all run by volunteers and through fundraising and donations. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, certainly get on the list. It's just out at Sulphur Springs.
Thank you. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to put a shout out to the community that the Legion is still looking for some volunteers to man the poppy boxes at various places around the community. It is a huge fundraising event for the Legion, and still needing a few people to give 2 hours of their time within the next week or so, just to make it a very successful event.
Thank you. And now I'll go to staff. Sherry, online.
Just following up, this is the best spot to do it on Councillor Cable's question about the no charge meeting space for executive committees. It is the boardroom at the P&H Center that's been designated as that space. So perhaps if our executive committees are looking for a spot to meet, they should call Parks and Recreation accordingly.
Thank you for that. And I'll open it up to staff. Anything you want to share? Seeing none. Item 17 is upcoming committee meetings. The dates are listed on this agenda and the website, and I'll just ask before I move on, are there any changes to those meeting dates that you're aware of? Seeing none. Item 18 is our important dates and announcements. Of course, as mentioned, Remembrance Day is Tuesday, November the 11th at the Cenotaph out front here. 10 o'clock in the morning, I believe it will start. 9:45. Councillor Hudson?
I believe the People are leaving from the Legion at 10:40 to make it to the Cenotaph by 11.
They're going to be marching fast.
They are.
Anyway, it'll be in the newspaper, I hope. It'll be on the website and we'll get the exact time. I know I'm coming at 9:45. So our next regular council meeting is Monday, November 17th at 4 p.m. Our budget meeting is November 24th. That's a Monday at 9 a.m. And we also have our joint public meeting of Hanover and West Grey councils. This is for the proposed municipal boundary adjustment on Wednesday, November 19th at 6:30 p.m. at the Elmwood Community Center. Item 19, we have a closed meeting, and it is recommended that the Council of the Town of Hanover meet in closed session in order to discuss matters pertaining to acquisition or disposition of land related to potential entertainment district development, labor relations or employee negotiations respecting compensation and benefits, and third-party information supplied in confidence to the municipality, which, if disclosed, could significantly prejudice a competitive position or interfere with negotiations respecting a long-term care facility. I need a mover and seconder to go into closed. Councillor Hawking and Councillor Hudson, all in favor? That is, let's